Have you ever wondered if picking up a stranger on a deserted road at midnight could summon something from beyond the grave, something that whispers your deepest fears back to you? What if that one act of kindness on Halloween night turned your life into an endless nightmare of shadows that follow you home? Picture this, folks. It's the witching hour, the veil between worlds thinnest, and you're cruising down a fog-shrouded back road, headlights cutting through the darkness like a knife through flesh. Your heart pounds not from fear, but from the mundane rhythm of a long drive. Then, out of nowhere, a figure emerges from the mist, a pale woman in a tattered white dress, thumb outstretched, eyes hollow like forgotten wells. Do you stop? Or do you speed past, pretending you never saw her, knowing deep down that ignoring the dead might be worse than inviting them in? That's the question that haunted Eddie, a cab driver in rural Georgia back in 1947, and it's the spark that ignited one of the most chilling true tales of Halloween terror ever whispered around campfires. Let me take you there step by chilling step, because this isn't just a story, it's a warning etched in the cold sweat of real memory. It was a crisp October evening, the kind where the leaves crunch underfoot like brittle bones, and the air carries the faint scent of wood smoke mixed with something sweeter, almost like decay. Eddie had been driving his beat-up Chevy taxi for over a decade, ferrying drunks from dive bars, lovers from motels, and the occasional lost soul who wandered too far from the highway. Halloween was always busy, kids in masks darting across streets, parties spilling out into the night with laughter that bordered on hysteria. But that year, something felt off from the start. The radio crackled with static more than usual, and the dashboard clock seemed to lag, as if time itself was reluctant to tick forward into the unknown. Around 11 p.m., dispatch crackled over the line with a voice that sounded strained, almost apologetic. Eddie, got a pickup on Bramlett Road. Female, says she's alone. Make it quick. Road's empty out there. Bramlett Road. The name alone sent a shiver down Eddie's spine. It was a stretch of cracked asphalt winding through pine thickets and forgotten cornfields, the kind of place where locals told stories of disappearances that the papers never covered. Folks said it was cursed, built over an old Indian burial ground or the site of a long-ago massacre. Take your pick of the legends. Eddie had driven it 100 times without incident, but on All Hallows' Eve, with the moon hanging low and bloated like a bruised eye, he hesitated. You sure about this, dispatch? It's Halloween. Probably some prankster in a sheet. The reply was curt. Just go, Eddie. Lady sounds desperate. He sighed, lit a cigarette, and turned onto the road. The headlights swept over gnarled trees that clawed at the sky, their branches twisting like arthritic fingers. Gravel crunched under the tires, and the engine's hum was the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. About a mile in, there she was, standing at the edge of the tree line, a silhouette against the fog rolling in from the creek. As Eddie slowed, his beams caught her fully. A woman in her late 20s maybe, with porcelain skin and raven hair tumbling loose over a simple white gown that fluttered in the breeze like a shroud. No coat, no purse, just bare feet on the cold earth. She raised a hand, pale as moonlight, and her lips parted in what might have been a smile or a grimace. Eddie rolled down the window, the chill air slapping his face. Ma'am, you the one called for a ride? She nodded slowly. Her eyes, God, those eyes, dark pools that seemed to swallow the light. Yes, she murmured, her voice a whisper like wind through dry leaves. To the old mill, please, hurry. The old mill, abandoned since the flood of 1923, it sat crumbling at the road's end, a skeleton of rusted beams and shattered windows where vagrants sometimes squatted. Eddie unlocked the door. Hop in. Cold night for a stroll. She slid into the back seat without a word, the cab filling with a faint perfume. Lilacs, maybe, mingled with something metallic like blood. Eddie glanced in the rear view, but she was staring out the window, unmoving. Rough night, he tried, lighting another smoke to steady his nerves. Party get out of hand? Silence. Then softly, you could say that. It's my anniversary, of sorts. Eddie chuckled nervously. Halloween's a big one for anniversaries. Ghosts and goblins, right? She didn't laugh. Instead, she leaned forward, her breath fogging the glass between them. Do you believe in ghosts, Eddie? He nearly swerved off the road. How did she know his name? Dispatch hadn't used it. Lady, you got me there. What's your name, anyway? Call me Anna, she said, and the temperature in the cab plummeted, frost creeping across the dashboard like spider webs. Eddie's breath came in visible puffs. He cranked the heat, but it sputtered uselessly. The road narrowed, pines closing in like sentinels, and the mill loomed ahead, a hulking shadow against the starry sky. As they approached, Anna spoke again, her voice threading through the darkness. He left me here, you know, on a night just like this. Said he loved me then. He didn't. Eddie pulled up to the mill's rusted gate, gravel crunching to a halt. Here we are. That'll be $2. She met his eyes in the mirror, and for the first time, he saw them clearly, milky white, like a blind woman's, but piercing straight through him. Keep driving, Eddie. Just a little farther. Panic clawed at his throat. Look, ma'am, this is the end of the line. Pay up or... Her hand shot forward, cold fingers brushing his shoulder through the seat. The touch burned like dry ice, and visions flooded his mind. A young couple arguing by lantern light, a shove, a splash into the creek below the mill, bubbles rising like screams. Anna's screams. Eddie yelped, slamming on the brakes. What the hell are you? She smiled then, teeth too sharp, too white. The anniversary you never wanted to celebrate. He comes back every year, you see, to visit. But tonight, you're the one who brought me. The back door flew open on its own, wind howling through the cab like a banshee's wail. Anna, or whatever she was, stepped out, her gown billowing, and began to walk toward the mill, barefoot over broken glass that didn't cut her. Eddie fumbled for the gear shift, heart hammering, but the engine wouldn't turn over. Dead. Silence descended, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the rustle of leaves that sounded like whispers, hundreds of them murmuring his name. Eddie, join us. Stay forever. He locked the doors, hands shaking, and pounded the horn until his palms bled. Nothing. Minutes stretched into eternity, the fog thickening until he could barely see the dashboard. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling the car. A shadow passed the window, tall and misshapen, not Anna's. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Nails on metal, carving symbols Eddie didn't recognize. He whispered prayers he hadn't said since childhood, sweat stinging his eyes. And then, as suddenly as it began, the footsteps stopped. The engine roared to life. Eddie floored it, tires spinning in the gravel, careening back down Bramlett Road at 60 miles an hour. He didn't look back, not even when the rearview mirror cracked, spiderwebbing like a scream frozen in glass. By dawn, he was home, barricaded in his apartment, chain-smoking until his lungs burned. Dispatch called twice, once to confirm the fare, once to ask why he'd bailed. Lady vanished, he lied, voice hoarse. Must have walked the rest of the way. But she hadn't walked. Eddie knew that. He saw it in his dreams. Anna waiting at the mill, not alone anymore, but with others, dozens of women in white, eyes milky, hands outstretched for the next kind stranger. Weeks passed, and Eddie quit driving Bramlett. He stuck to the city, lit streets and crowds, but Halloween loomed like a guillotine. That year he boarded up his windows, loaded his shotgun, and waited. Midnight came, and with it a knock, soft, insistent. Through the peephole, nothing. But when he cracked the door, there it was, a single white petal, lilac-scented, on his welcome mat. No note, no footprints in the dew, just the petal and the faint echo of a woman's whisper. Happy anniversary, Eddie. He burned it in the sink, watching the flames dance like spirits in the night. But the smoke carried the scent, filling the room, and for a moment, he swore he saw her reflection in the window, smiling, teeth sharp. Eddie never drove a cab again. He took a job at the mill's old site, now a museum, they said, to honor the lost. Tourists came for ghost stories, snapping photos of the creek where Anna drowned. Eddie gave the tours, voice steady, but his eyes darted to the water, waiting for the splash that never came. Or did it? On quiet nights, when the groups thinned, he'd hear it. Bubbles rising, a hand breaking the surface, pale and grasping. And always, always, the whisper, "Thank you for the ride." Folks in town still talk about Eddie, the old cabbie who jumped at shadows. They say he died on Bramlett Road last Halloween. Car found wrapped around a tree, door open, back seat empty but for a single white petal. No body, though. Just the car, and the faint perfume of lilacs on the wind. So next time you're out on a foggy night, thumb out or engine humming, remember Eddie's tale. Because some anniversaries aren't celebrated with cake and candles. They're marked in blood and whispers. And the dead. They never forget a face. Especially yours. If this story's got your pulse racing, imagining that knock at your own door, hit that subscribe button now. It's free, and what better way to arm yourself against the dark than by diving deeper into these true horrors? No excuses. Join the ranks of those who face the night head-on. Because knowledge is the only light that pierces the veil. Stay vigilant out there, friends. The road home might not be as empty as it seems. What if the nice soccer mom who stops to help you on a deserted highway under a blood moon isn't offering salvation, but dragging you straight into hell's waiting room? Imagine stumbling out of a Halloween party, heart pounding from more than just cheap beer, only to hitch a ride with a woman whose smile hides fangs sharper than any vampire's costume. Do you climb in, trusting the light in her eyes, or do you run into the night, knowing the real monsters wear minivans and crosses? This is the nightmare that unfolded for Jake in Shallow Water, Texas, back in 2008. A tale so raw, it still echoes in the flatlands like a demon's laugh. Grab hold, because once you hear this, you'll never trust a stranger's kindness again. It was the kind of Halloween where the air hung heavy with the scent of bonfires and distant thunder. The sky bruised purple as kids in zombie makeup roamed the streets of this dusty speck of a town 10 miles west of Lubbock. Jake was 19, fresh-faced and full of that reckless fire youth ignites. Working shifts at the ex-fab plant, dreaming of oil rigs in the Gulf, but tonight he was chasing Rita. They'd met at Hebrew's coffee shop that morning, trading grins over glazed donuts and black coffee. She was all curves and laughter, with eyes like polished obsidian, and by evening, they were texting flirty nonsense as he prepped for her friend's bash at the country club. "Wear something scary," she teased. Jake dug out his old ghost face mask and robe, black, ragged, straight out of Scream, the same getup from 2 years back. It fit loose now, but who cared? He was wild about her, and with his buddies glued to PUBG screens, tagging along with Rita's crew was a no-brainer. The party pulsed with bass-heavy remixes of Monster Mash, strobe lights flashing over witches and werewolves grinding on the dance floor. Jake played the charmer, cracking jokes that had Rita's friends howling, his arms slung casual around her waist. For hours it was electric, sweat-slick skin, stolen kisses in corners, the world narrowing to her breath on his neck. Then, around 1 a.m., Rita vanished into the bathroom, returning pale as milk, eyes wide. "My ex," she whispered, gripping his sleeve. "Showed up out of nowhere. Supposed to be on the rigs, but change of plans. You gotta go, Jake. Now." Her ex was bad news, tattooed temper, fists like hammers, and Rita's plea was laced with fear. Jake didn't want to bolt, but visions of a brawl in his Scream costume soured the night. He kissed her quick, promised to text, and slipped out the back, weaving through the driveway's shadows toward the highway. The air bit cold now, stars pricking the velvet sky like accusatory eyes. He'd walk the 2 hours to Shallow Water. Thoughts of Rita would warm him, or so he thought. Half a mile down the empty stretch, his phone buzzed. "Rita. He's pissed. Fought everyone, got kicked out with his buddies. They're coming for you. Run." Uh-oh. Footsteps? No, but headlights in the distance screamed pursuit. Jake broke into a jog, robe flapping like broken wings, mask lost somewhere in the chaos. Cars whooshed by, oblivious, until one slowed. An SUV, sensible silver, driven by a woman in her 40s, purple sweater hugging a mom-next-door frame. She cranked the window. "Need a lift, hun? You look like you've seen a ghost." Jake sagged with relief. "God, yes. Shallow water, please. Ex-drama at a party." She chuckled, warm as fresh pie. "Hop in. Name's Deborah. Dating pool's a Shark Tank, huh?" He slid into the passenger seat, the cab smelling of vanilla air freshener and faint potpourri. Safe. As they merged onto the highway, Jake spilled it all. Rita, the party, the chase. Deborah nodded sympathetically, clucking about nice girls and settling down. "You're what, 19? Time flies. Find a good one. Build a life." Jake laughed it off. Marriage? Nightmare fuel. They chatted easy about donuts, glazed always, the plants grind, her side gig at a church group. She turned off the highway eastbound, onto a dirt track swallowed by night. "Pit stop at a friend's," she said. "Won't take long." Jake shrugged. Gratitude outweighed suspicion. But the road twisted darker, trees hulking like silent judges, until Deborah braked hard in a clearing ringed by pines. Silence crashed down. "Why stop?" Jake asked, gut twisting. She didn't answer. Instead, her hand dipped to the door pocket, emerging with a snub-nosed revolver glinting under the dome light. Jake froze, breath seizing. This couldn't be real. A prank? Highway robbery? Deborah's face had hardened, eyes glassy with zeal. "Bag!" she snapped, tossing a black cloth sack his way. "Over your head, now." "This a joke?" he stammered, voice cracking. The barrel pressed his temple, cold as judgment. "Put it on, demon, or I'll paint this seat with your lies. Call 911, say you attacked me. Who'd they believe? A God-fearing mom, or a drunk boy in a robe?" "Demon," the word slithered out, laced with venom. Jake's hands shook as he complied, world plunging to black. The sack reeked of mildew and old incense. What do you want?" Silence. Then the engine growled back to life. They bumped deeper into the woods, Jake pleading into void. Deborah's replies came in bursts. "Shut your devil mouth. I see you, unclean thing. God's work demands sacrifice." Minutes blurred into nausea, the SUV jolting to a halt. "Out!" she barked, gun prodding his ribs. Blind, he stumbled onto crunching leaves, her grip iron on his arm. They entered somewhere, creaking boards, musty air thick with hay and rot. A barn, he guessed. Arms out. Rope bit his wrists, binding him to a cold metal beam. The sack ripped free and Jake blinked into lantern light. Rough-hewn walls, tools rusted on pegs, bales stacked like altars. Deborah loomed, revolver steady. "Scream and it's over quick. Funny business? Hellfire waits." She vanished, leaving him trussed, mind reeling. Minutes, hours, footsteps returned, not hers. A girl, maybe 10, trailed Deborah, clutching a teddy bear, eyes wide as saucers. "Mommy says you're a demon," the child whispered, voice trembling. Deborah nodded fervent. "We pray now, sweetie. Reveal him." They knelt, voices rising in fervent chant, psalms twisted into exorcism, words like knives. "Cast out the unclean, fire and brimstone for the wicked." Jake thrashed against bonds. "I'm no demon. Please, I'm Jake. Just a guy needing a ride." The girl glanced up, doubt flickering. Deborah drowned him out. "Lies of the serpent. Louder, child." Their prayers swelled to shrieks, Jake's begs lost in the cacophony. No one heard, no rescue. Exhausted, voices hoarse, Deborah commanded, "Look now, sweetie, see the monster." The girl stared. Jake, tear-streaked, pleading, and shook her head. "No demon, Mommy, just sad." Deborah faltered, face crumpling. "Look harder." But the child wept, and something cracked in the woman. She studied Jake anew, surprise, then sorrow flooding her features. "Mommy, Mistake? Jake echoed. Yes, mistake. Let me go, please. The girl sobbed, eyes pleading. Deborah holstered the gun, whispering apologies like litanies. God's work. Sometimes the signs mislead. I hunt the possessed, you see. Vampires in the night, demons in sheep's clothing. Forgive me. Jake babbled promises, silence, gratitude, as she fetched the sack again. Swear on your soul, tell no one, or the demons find you. He swore to God, to anything. Hooded once more, unbound, guided to the SUV. The drive blurred, highway hum, sack stifling. Removed near his pickup spot, Deborah murmured, God bless. Heaven rewards the quiet. She vanished into night. Jake walked miles to shallow water, legs lead, calling the sheriff at dawn. Kidnapping, gun, barn prayer. Cops listened, but without proof, witnesses, bruises. It was he, she said. Deborah's tale. Kind ride to a drunk kid who assaulted her at a stop for food. Jake's party buzz, ammo against him. Press it, kid, but courts love scared moms. Self-defense? He dropped it, nightmare enough without mudslinging. Rita raged. Fight her! But Jake saw the fallout. Whispers of predator, MySpace smears. Some regrets gnaw. What if she hunts again? Others vanish, saved by a child's mercy. Shallow water sleeps on. But Jake? He drives alone now, eyes on every SUV, every purple sweater. And on Halloween's, when the moon bleeds red, he locks doors, shotgun loaded, waiting for the knock that never comes. Or does it? Last October, a petal, no, a cross, on his porch. Lilac-scented? No, but close enough to chill. Demons wear many masks, friends. And salvation? Sometimes. It's the devil, you know. Ever pondered if carving a simple stone in the dead of night could unleash a frenzy of bloodlust that turns brothers against brothers, guards against prisoners, and the living against their own sanity? What if, on the eve of All Hallows, a nameless cultist in a cell molded not just rock, but the very rage of the damned, sculpting a riot from whispers and shadows? In the underbelly of Mussolini's Italy, 1928, one young guard learned the price of ignoring the unholy, and it cost him his soul, fleeing across oceans to a new world haunted by the echo of screams. This is Luca's legacy, a true chronicle of Halloween horror from the boot of Italy, where faith and fascism birthed monsters worse than any goblin's mask. Settle in. The bars are cold and the stone, it's watching. Born in 1911 to a dirt-poor hamlet in Calabria, Luca grew up under the black shirt shadow of Il Duce's rise. By 17, patriotism burned hot. Fascism promised order, glory, a Italy reborn. He enlisted in the MVSN, the black shirt's iron fist, trading plow for rifle, dreams for duty. No poet he, but a boy eager to serve, guarding the regime's secrets in hidden prisons, dotting the countryside like plague sores. These weren't mere jails. They were voids where dissent vanished. Poets, priests, partisans swallowed whole. Luca's first post was a communal cell block, air thick with sweat and sobs, where he learned the rhythm, keys jangling at dawn, beatings at dusk, the occasional disappearance chalked to fever. It hardened him, this dance with despair. Then promotion came, transfer to La Rocca, a fortress carved into Apennine foothills, holding the regime's darkest prizes. Here, fascism wed the church in unholy matrimony. Mussolini's thugs crushed heretics. For Vatican favor, cults defying doctrine, flagellants gone rogue, saints' devotees turned too fervent. Luca expected madmen, but found the meek, withered priests flogging air, hermits chanting to empty altars, broken by batons for sins of zeal. Why them, he'd mutter, rifle slung. They harm no one. Superiors sneered. Church's enemies, boy. Our blades stay sharp. Routine numbed him, until the nameless one arrived. Dragged in chains one stormy October eve, he was skeletal, hair black as sin, eyes burning with voids deeper than catacombs. No name yielded under fists. Torture chambers' screams birthed only silence. Whispers flew, cult leader, All Hallows' Eve butcher, rituals of slaughter under harvest moons. Solitary for him, a damp pit, iron-barred, lightless save a slit for bread and water. Luca drew guard duty, and the air soured. The man exuded nausea, a pall like grave rot, bending light into unease. Luca crossed himself nightly, rosary beads clicking like bones. Prisons breed boredom's balm, soccer in courtyards, cards in cells, plays sans politics. Solitary got scraps, chess, Bibles to stave madness. The nameless spurned all, staring walls blank as death. Guards fretted insanity. One asked, "What occupies you then?" From shadows, a rock, and sandpaper, to shape. Warden mulled, harmless, so long as blunt. Delivered at dusk, jagged granite, abrasive strip. Luca watched first pass, rough edges smoothed, deliberate strokes like lover's caress. Days blurred, the rock shrank, oblong gleam emerging. Coincidence? Unrest stirred, General Pop grew rowdy, demands for bread, yard time, echoes of Libera Italia. Guards quelled with clubs, withheld rations, but tempers flared hotter. Courtyard chants nightly, soccer forgotten for slogans. Luca felt it. A pressure building, like storm before lightning. By week's end, the rock was pill-shaped, polished to ivory sheen. Prisoners congregated, eyes wild, fists clenched. Warden offered truce. All Hallows' Eve feast, fresh loaves, wine casks, a cup per man. Riot's nuclear deterrent. They spat rejection, fury doubling, beatings redoubled, starvation bit deeper. Then, October 30th, the dam burst. Dawn found the rock transformed. A miniature man, crude but uncanny, features etched in miniature agony. Hours later, courtyard erupted. Not protest, carnage. Prisoners tore at guards, then kin. Throats ripped bare-handed, eyes gouged, bones cracked like kindling. Frenzy viral, blood pooling ankle-deep, screams harmonizing in hell's choir. Luca fired warning shots, clubbed skulls, but chaos consumed. Friends eviscerating friends, bodies piled like cordwood. Warden ordered retreat. Guards fled to walls, rifles trained. One breached, shot mid-stride, crumpling like rag. Dusk to dawn, slaughter raged. La Rocca, a abattoir. Morning's tally. Courtyard charnel house, blood congealing in puddles black as ink. Most survivors catatonic, wounded, hollow-eyed, but one cell empty. Not quite. The nameless gone, but floor bore a corpse. Unrelated prisoner, chest cavity sundered, heart excised, neat as surgery. Guards scoured, vents, sewers, walls, no trace. Escape impossible sans aid. Warden grilled all, threats of gulag. None cracked. Panic birthed lie. Riot death, mutilated beyond ID. Superiors swallowed, averting scandal. But guards knew, vanished, not dead. Whispers festered. The rock's shaping synced unrest's swell, miniature man's completion birthing bedlam. Forbidden talk, lest treason branded. Transfers denied, mouths sealed. Luca broke first, fled post, stowed on freighter to France, then New York by December's chill. America. New tongue, lone Christmas but free. Old world couldn't follow, or so he thought. Years wove on. Brooklyn's bustle, family, rosary nightly, holy water splashed against shadows. But Halloween etched deepest, 1950, grandson pestering grandpa's silence on Italy. Luca cracked, tail tumbling like loosened stones. The sculptor, he whispered. He wasn't man. Something older, hungrier, shaped not rock, but us. Boy shivered, but Luca pressed on, detailing the aura, the heart rip, the vanish. Church and fascists birthed him. All Hallows blood fed him. He waits still, in cells unseen. Decades passed. Luca died peaceful, 92, beads in hand. But grandson? Dreams plagued, corridors descending, rock in palm, hands moving unbidden, screams echoing. Last Halloween, visiting old haunts, a pebble-caught boot, smooth, oblong, man-shaped. Heart raced, pocketed it, but night brought visions. La Rocca's yard, blood ankle-deep, nameless grinning from shadows. "Shape me," he urged. Grandson fled dawn, pebble discarded in Hudson's murk. Yet feel it still, weight in pocket, whispers in wind. Anniversary calls. Italy's ghosts cross oceans, friends, and stones. They remember hands that carved them. Lock your doors come October 31st. The sculptor's chisel hungers anew. Could a child's innocent fascination with capes and fangs on Halloween morning doom him to a grave of hunger by week's end, starved not by wolves but by parents who saw demons in his smile? Imagine your little Dracula, hissing playfully at recess, only for holy men to decree him possessed, chaining him to a bed with prayers and privation until his bones scream for mercy. This is the gut-wrenching true horror from an English classroom in 2012, where joy curdled to atrocity, and a teacher's pride became her deepest scar. Listen close. The fangs in this tale bite eternal. It was a golden September in a leafy suburb, where chalk dust mingled with autumn's first blush, and 7 to 11-year-olds buzzed like bees in the hive of learning. Miss Harper, mid-30s with a laugh like wind chimes, adored her class. Their sticky fingers on art paper, the chaos of show and tell. Term's start brought a wide-eyed import from a sun-baked land where ghosts weren't games but grave warnings. His English faltered at first, words stumbling like fledglings, but extra lessons unlocked him. A boy with curls like midnight coils, grin-splitting storms. A's homeland shunned Halloween. Spirits roamed free, no costumes to mock them. So when October draped the school in cobwebs and pumpkins, a quailed, witches leered from posters, ghouls grinned from windows. "Scary," he whispered, clutching Miss Harper's sleeve. She knelt, voice soft. "It's play, eh? We dress fears to tame them." Light dawned. He beamed. Classmates, rowdy imps, embraced him. Queries blunt as only kids wield. Why accent? Camel rides? No malice, just curiosity's blade. A bloomed, popular by mid-month, trading tales of sands and stars. Vampires enchanted most. Dracula's cape, batwings at dawn. Fly all night, a enthused, fangs plastic but fierce. Miss Harper quizzed, "Why him? Undead, free, no sleep, just sky." Adorable, his English blooming in Transylvanian twists. Friday, October 31st, dawned crisp. Post-lunch, class erupted in mask. Masks smeared, makeup streaked. Zombies lurched, ghosts wailed. A sported binliner cape, fangs glinting, creeping corridors with hisses that dissolved to giggles. "Vampire King," they crowned. He left fangs in, cape trailing, insisting, "Hunt tonight." Miss Harper shared with boyfriend over wine. Sweet kid, conquered fears. Monday promised encore, but A absent. Headmaster rang, ill, bed rest. Inform next time, polite nudge. Tuesday, same. Wednesday, worry gnawed. Calls yielded still poorly, no doctor. See physician? Translation frayed. Hints of services surfaced. Week stretched. A's desk echoed empty. Second week dawned dire. Third call, bed rest. Headmaster pressed. Doctor? No. Words lost. Social workers murmured. 2 weeks post-absence, welfare knock. Parents stonewalled. Sick, no enter. Threats of police, arrest, ignored or misunderstood. Red tape strangled. 3 weeks for outreach team. Raid dawn. Door splintered. Horror unveiled. A in bed, skeletal wraith. Skin stretched taut over bones. Eyes sunken pits. Efforts evident, water dregs, broth stains, but starvation's claw deep. Ambulance wailed, hospital frenzy. IVs, scans. Why? Verdict, near 3 weeks sans food. Sips to stave death. Nursed slow, flesh reclaiming frame. Police cuffed parents. Good folk, tears streaming. Why? They wailed, uncomprehending. Holy man said, starved demon, possessed. Belief iron. A's Dracula zeal first sign. Fangs, cape, undead chance. Consulted elder, verdict, entity lodged, feeding on joy. Right, minimal sustenance, expel fiend. Third week, wasting critical, shaman summoned, exorcism subdued, no Hollywood histrionics, but chance binding, herbs bitter. Failed, starvation pressed, revelation shattered, parents devout, culture's grip vice. Prison beckoned, sentences light, sorrow heavy. A to foster care, distant town. Miss Harper, shattered. A her spark, Dracula dreams, cape flourishes, now spectre starved by faith's blade. Nightmares gripped, his bed prison, bones accusing. Missed signs? She'd weep. No, culture's chasm, bureaucracy's chain. But guilt clung, Halloween forever tainted, fangs not fun, but fall. Last she heard, A's thriving, foster warmth, school anew, yet echoes haunt, his hiss, playful, twisted to horror. Teachers bear unseen scars, kids, fragile flames. Next October, when capes flutter. Remember A, possession wears many masks, sometimes it's fear's own face. And starvation, cruelest haunt, gnawing from within. What if a faceless intruder in a pillowcase mask didn't just rob your home but carved your sense of safety away, one silent step at a time, leaving you to wonder if the shadows in your hallway breathe? On a Halloween Eve when jack-o'-lanterns grinned from porches, one family's brush with the knife-wielding phantom proved that real terrors lurk not in costumes, but in the uninvited knock that seals your doom. This is the 1984 Chronicle from suburban Indiana, a true slash of dread that turned treats to screams and forever scarred a neighborhood's soul. Brace yourselves, the blade's edge is near. It was the golden hour of dusk on October 30th, 1984, when the air in Muncie, Indiana hummed with anticipation, kids mapping routes by candy halls, parents carving pumpkins into toothy sentinels against the encroaching dark. The Thompsons' split-level home on Oakwood Drive glowed warm, windows fogged from chili simmering, laughter spilling as 8-year-old Emily and her brothers, 10-year-old Tim and 12-year-old Sarah, plotted their costumes: princess, pirate, ghost, dad, burly mechanic Ray, strung orange lights, mom, Lisa, baked snickerdoodles scented with cinnamon sin. Routine bliss until the knock, sharp, insistent, shattering the idyll like glass under heel. Ray wiped hands on jeans, peering through curtains, empty porch, leaves skittering like fleeing rats. Kids pranking early, he chuckled, door creaking open. Nothing. Then, from shadows, a figure lunged, tall, hooded in white pillowcase, eye holes jagged, glint of steel in gloved fist. Knife. Ray's bellow drowned Emily's squeal as the intruder shoved past, blade arcing wild. Chaos erupted. Lisa herded kids to basement stairs, heart thunderous, while Ray grappled the phantom, fabric tearing, muffled grunts. The attacker twisted free, slashing air inches from Ray's throat, then bolted kitchenward, rummaging drawers frantic. "Money! Keys!" he snarled, voice distorted, southern drawl seeping. Lisa barricaded basement door. Kids huddled, breaths ragged. Sirens wailed distant, neighbors 911, but seconds stretched eternal. Upstairs crash, Ray tackling anew, bodies tumbling over island, knife skittering. Pillowcase slipped. Glimpse, mid-30s, pockmarked face, eyes feral under street lamp glow. He scrambled up, blade reclaimed, lunging deep. Ray parried, gash blooming red on forearm. Blood-slicked linoleum. Emily whimpered below, Tim clutching her, Sarah praying fevered. "Daddy!" Knife fight blurred, thrusts parried, feints dodged, Ray's bulk against intruder's wiry hate. Caller ID? No, pre-digital dark. But Ray fought primal, protecting hearth. Attacker faltered, wail of cruisers nearing, grabbed loot. Wallet fat with week's pay, Lisa's purse, Tim's piggy bank shattered for coins. He fled back door, into night, swallowing him whole. Police swarmed, floodlights harsh, questions relentless. "Halloween scout," Ray gasped, tourniquet binding wound. "Pillowcase ghost." Neighborhood buzzed. Doors locked double, porch lights blazing. Papers dubbed him Halloween Phantom, phantom plaguing Midwest. Homes hit eve of, pillowcase shroud, knife's kiss. Thompson's tale topped horrors, family cornered, blade at throats. Emily dreamed his eyes, Tim wet bed weeks, Sarah shunned white sheets. Ray stitched 32, scar serpentine reminder. Investigation dragged, prints smeared, fibers common. Pillowcase discarded in woods, DNA barren, 80s tech too crude. Phantom struck thrice more that All Hallows, Evansville widow slashed fleeing, Peoria teen stabbed guarding candy, Dayton dad gutted mid-chase, pattern, eve of, pillowcase, knife, loot secondary to terror. FBI profiled, drifter, thrill kill, Halloween's veil his cloak. Thompson's rebuilt, therapy, community watches, but trust fractured. Emily, now therapist, says, he didn't take things, he stole peace. Last sighting, 1992, phantom cornered in Ohio barn, shootout fatal. Pillowcase found, monogram faded, J. Harlan. Ex-con, drifter, Halloween orphan craving fears family. No remorse in notes. They scream best in masks. Muncie honors Thompson's. Annual vigil, porch lights eternal. But October 30th? Doors bolted, knives handy. Phantoms gone, but echoes linger. Knock unanswered. Shadows checked twice. Real haunts aren't ghosts, they're men in sheets. Blades hungry for screams. Next Halloween, when knocks echo, remember, not all treats hide tricks, some bleed.